Once upon a time, in a cozy little village, there lived a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She had a big heart and always helped everyone around her. But life wasn't easy for Cinderella. Her mother had passed away, and her father had married a woman who had 2 daughters of her own. Sadly, Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters were not very nice. They made her do all the housework while they relaxed and enjoyed themselves. Cinderella's days were filled with sweeping, mopping, cooking, and taking care of the animals, but no matter how tired she was, she always sang and smiled. The royal invitation one sunny morning, a messenger arrived at their house with a special letter. It was an invitation from the royal palace. The king and queen were hosting a grand ball, and every young lady in the kingdom was invited. The prince would be there, and he was looking for someone special to dance with. Cinderella's stepsisters were over the moon. They spent hours trying on fancy dresses, putting on makeup, and arguing over who looked prettier. Cinderella, wearing ugly clothes, asked softly, "May I go to the ball too?" Her stepmother laughed and said, "You, go to the ball? You're just a servant, you have no dress, no shoes, and no time." The fairy godmother's magic that evening. As Cinderella sat alone in the garden, she heard a soft voice. "Why are you crying, my dear?" Cinderella looked up and saw a kind woman with a sparkling wand. It was her fairy godmother. "Don't worry," said the fairy godmother with a smile, "you shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, she turned a pumpkin into a golden carriage, mice into horses, and Cinderella's rags into a beautiful gown. She even gave her a pair of sparkling glass slippers. But remember, the fairy godmother warned, the magic will only last until midnight. You must leave the ball before the clock strikes 12. The grand ball. Cinderella arrived at the palace, and everyone was amazed by her beauty. Even her stepsisters didn't recognize her. The prince was captivated by her kindness and grace, and they danced all night long. Cinderella felt like she was in a dream, but as the clock began to strike midnight, Cinderella remembered the fairy godmother's warning. She hurried away, leaving behind one of her glass slippers. The prince picked it up and vowed to find the mysterious girl who had stolen his heart, the glass slipper. The next day, the prince went to every house in the kingdom, asking every young lady to try on the glass slipper. When he arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsisters tried to squeeze their feet into the slipper, but it didn't fit. Then Cinderella stepped forward. Her stepmother tried to stop her, but the prince insisted. When Cinderella slipped her foot into the glass slipper, it fit perfectly. The prince knew he had found his true love. Happily ever after, Cinderella and the prince returned to the palace, where they were married in a grand ceremony. Cinderella forgave her stepmother and stepsisters, and they all lived happily ever after. From that day on, Cinderella's kindness and courage were celebrated throughout the kingdom.